Hey everybody, and welcome back to Everything Tech, and today we're taking a look at the iPhone 7 Plus. Before we get started, I'd like to mention that I did have to unwrap the box and take the phone out of its plastic wrapper in order to activate it at the store. But other than that, everything should be intact. But once you take the wrapper off, you can just take the top off, which slides right off. And right away we see the Designed by Apple in California pamphlet. Inside this, or it's not really a pamphlet, it's actually like a little packet. So inside the packet we get like a sort of quick start guide. And it is double-sided, so you can flip this around and check out the other side. It says there, welcome to iPhone, certain features that it has. You do get some regulatory information, user's guide, and stuff like that. This is double-sided as well, and some Apple stickers. Sadly, this one's not double-sided. You only get 2 Apple stickers. Once you get past that, you do see the iPhone, which again, like I said, I had to take out of the wrapper, but we're going to go ahead and set this aside and take a look at the rest of the stuff in the box. And here we have the USB brick connector. Of course, this one depends on your region. If you're in the US, you're of course going to get this plug, but if you're anywhere else, you're going to get the plug that responds or corresponds to your region. You do get your headphones, which is one of the more controversial features of this phone. We'll take a look at that in just a second. And of course, the power cable, which is Lightning to USB. This you can connect to your power brick, but I'm sure you already knew that. Taking a look at the headphones here, they do look like the wireless headphones, but the cable goes down this way and through the back and wraps around. But do not throw the box away, because when you flip this over, you do have your adapter here. In case you're still using the 3.5-inch headphones, this is your little adapter here. So I would recommend you take it out of the box and just set that aside. We will take a look at that in just a second. Just take it out in order to avoid throwing it away, but just going to peel this back here so we can take a look at the headphones. And there you can see the wires coming down. And of course, we no longer see the 3.5-inch connector that we used to see, or we have been seeing for the past years. So let's go ahead and take out the headphones. Out of the box, this is what the headphones look like. And right away, my first impressions is that the cables here are very, very thin. They're actually thinner than last generations. I think it's because it no longer needs that many cables in order to transfer audio, but this is one of the more controversial features here. It now uses that standard Lightning connector rather than the 3.5-inch jack, and you can use these with the previous iPhones and I believe iPads. I've used it with my iPhone and my iPod and it works just fine, but you will have to get an adapter for Lightning to 3.5-inch if you want to use this on a laptop per se. But if you want to use your 3.5-inch headphones, like let's say if you have Beats that you want to use, you would have to use the adapter, which gladly they included, because usually they don't include adapters like this. You'd have to pay for them, but if you do lose this, it'll run you right around $10. And of course you do plug in your standard headphones in there. This is a 3.5-inch adapter to Lightning, and this is the Lightning that goes into your phone. The new iPhone 7 Plus and the 7 included come in a variety of different colors, including silver, gold, rose gold, a redesigned black, and the all-new jet black. Pricing and storage options for the iPhone 7 will be linked down below, but you should be able to see the pricing and storage options for the iPhone 7 Plus on your screen. And it does come in 32 gigs, 128, and 256 gigs. Although the jet black version will only come in 128 and 256 gigs. Before I give my first impressions on this phone, I'd like to make you aware that I am upgrading from the 5S. So if I do mention certain features that were there in the 6 and the 6S, I'd just like to make you aware that, of course, I didn't have any of those 2 phones, so this is all new to me. This is my first time experience with the iPhone 6 incarnation of the iPhone design, and this is, of course, the 3rd iteration of that design. I understand that, but I never had a phone with this design. So with that said, I do love this particular iPhone 6 design, even though this is the 7. The feel of this phone is much nicer in the hands than the 5S that I used to have because of the rounder edges. Although most people would argue that they like the more boxy edges, I do like these rounded edges because it fits more comfortably in my palms. It's not as rugged or ridged with the edges that the iPhone 5S had. I didn't really like that, so I always had to be using a rounded case in order to get a nice clean experience with my phone. But now that I have rounded edges as a standard feature, I really can't wait to actually start using this phone. And I've actually been using this phone for quite a while now. Been using it for a full week already. But it's something that I've already gotten used to, including the headphones, because of course a lot of people thought it was going to be very difficult to switch on over to the Lightning. But given that Apple does provide you with the headphones that will work with it, you're more than likely going to be using these headphones and only these headphones. I have been using the adapter for the week, and I have to say it doesn't really bother me that the adapter is there because it just merely extends the headphones by a little bit, and it doesn't really bother me because most of this remains in my pocket. So I really don't find it worrisome that I have to use an adapter to use my other headphones. It just gets out of the way. I don't really think about it. I just use my headphones. But if I was to use, which I am going to use, I'm going to use these headphones now, which come with the proper connector. And you're going to find yourself using these headphones. My sister in particular kept saying that she didn't know how she was going to do it without the 3.5-inch headphone jack. And that's when she started realizing, when she started using her phone, that she's using the headphones that come with the phone. So by nature, she's always going to be using these headphones. And given that these headphones are usable with anything with a lightning connector, she was using them with her iPad and her iPhone, and she found that using her headphone jack she wasn't using her standard headphones that came with the other iPhones. She was always using these, and now it's become second nature to use these headphones, and it really doesn't bother me. It's not a feature that I would consider being a deal breaker in any way. Of course, it's going to be the standard for the next 10 years or so. I can assure you that, as we've seen with the removal of the CD drive on the computers and the floppy drives way back when. So it's just going to become a standard. Headphones are going to come in Lightning now. Maybe other phones are going to pick this feature up, or other headphone companies are going to start picking this feature up, and it will become mainstream. Another feature that I love about the phone is a front-facing camera. It's now at 7 megapixels, and it's able to record full 1080p video. I don't know if previous iPhones used to do this, but the 5S, which is the one I've been using for the past 2 years, it was, I believe, a 5 megapixel camera or less, and it only did 720p video. Now it's able to record a full 1080p 30 frames per second, fixed focus, and it's a 7 megapixel camera. So now it's decent to where you can take your selfies and they will look nice. I never did like the front-facing camera on the previous iPhones because it was so low resolution. The aperture was so low, it wouldn't let enough light in, and you would always get grainy pictures. I will show you some stills that I'll take with this camera, and you can see that the quality is there compared to the previous iPhones. And of course, this is mainly used as a selfie camera, but I'm not really one to take selfies. And we can't get away with speaking of the cameras on the iPhone without speaking of the iSight Duo camera, which we see here. The camera on the far left side is a wide-angle lens, which is a camera we're all used to using on the iPhone, except rather now it's a 1.8 aperture, up to 1.8. And if you do want to zoom into your pictures, back then you used to zoom in and use digital zoom, which just crops the picture that you take and it looks grainy, it doesn't look so good. But now you can zoom in with confidence because you will be using, most of the time you'll be using the telephoto lens, which is on the far right. The telephoto lens allows you to zoom in even more, and the fact that you can zoom in completely on the phone 10 times, when you do zoom in 10 times and you're using the telephoto lens, pictures are going to come out ultra crisp, ultra clear compared to when you used to take them with just a standard digital zoom. Although there's a little disclaimer there with the optical zoom. If the picture is too dark, you are going to be using digital zoom, so keep that in mind. And if there's plenty of light in the scene, which is most of the time if you're shooting outside there is plenty of light, you will be using the telephoto lens. But when you do use the telephoto lens, the wide-angle lens camera helps the telephoto calculate light, and I'll show you what that looks like in just a second. But again, if you're shooting in bright light, you're always going to be using the telephoto lens, and I'll show you how you can tell if you're using the telephoto lens. Now, if you want to make sure you're using the telephoto lens, you want to go into your camera. Once in your camera, just zoom in. Don't touch anything, just zoom in. And when you do zoom in, just put your finger over the first lens. So just slide your finger over this first lens. If you see that the picture is starting to get brighter and brighter, you're actually using the telephoto lens. But if you put your finger over the first lens and you can start seeing the picture or your finger moving into frame, you're using digital zoom. But if you're using this outside, most of the time you are going to be using the optical zoom. And you will notice that when you do put your finger over this lens here, it's going to get brighter, and eventually it's going to switch on over to this lens because it's saying, oh, it's way too bright, let's switch on over to the digital zoom so we can stop it down a little. And I'm not sure if the 4 LED flash was something that was in the 6S or the 6 Plus, but it is something that I noticed that is new in this phone compared to the iPhone 7. And another feature to me, I don't know if it's something that was already there, is the 4 LED flash, because I had the 5S, which was one of the first phones to have the dual tone flash. We only had 2 LEDs. We had an amber and a white, and the phone would automatically choose which light or what color temperature to shoot the picture. That feature is still present on this phone, although it's a lot more advanced than it was on my previous phone. It's nice to see that I have 4 LEDs to shoot our picture with, so it's going to be a lot more brighter. Next up, we have Touch ID, which is no longer a button like I mentioned. It's actually a piece of glass, so you are going to tap and it will feel like a button. And although it isn't a button, it's actually really nice how it feels like a button. And most of the shortcuts like double tapping to bring down your screen are still there. It's nice to know that this isn't another mechanical part that will fail, because my sister in particular has her phones, all her iPods, the home button is always broken, and to see that this button may not break, and if it does break, it won't be because of mechanical failure, you know that it's going to last you for a while if you know how to take care of it. Touch ID itself is actually way faster than it was on the 5S. I know the 5S was the first generation phone with Touch ID, but that's what I've had for 2 years, and I do notice that it's much faster. All I have to do is just press and it unlocks, and I do have my apps already installed. But on the 5S, I used to always come in here, put my finger on, and it used to say did not work. Let me just use my one of my fingers that I don't have on Touch ID. It'd be like no, 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 and then it'll just tell me to put in my password. On this one, I just tap and it's good. It's actually too fast. I actually have to learn to use my lock button to check the time, because like I said, it's too fast. It'll unlock right away. And it's actually much faster than it was on the previous phones. Now, if you want to hear my opinion on this camera, this is actually one of the best cameras that has ever been on any iPhone, because not only because of the dual camera here, even if it's the iPhone 7, it would still take brilliant pictures, but on this phone in particular, the pictures are tack sharp, crystal clear, beautifully taken pictures, and I really am happy that I did pick up this phone, and the pictures are phenomenal. The video is fantastic. You can select between 720p 30, 1080p 30, 1080p 60, which I'm about to show you right now. Just go into your settings and phone camera, scroll down, and you can record your video. You can see here some of the features that it has. You can choose 720p 30, 1080p 30, 1080p 60, which is something I'll be using more often, and 4K 30, and you can see how much storage a minute of video will take up. And you can lock your lenses if you want. But the fact that you can select between 4 different settings, not just 2 or 3, 4 different settings on the camera, that's great. And another new feature for those of you that like shooting slow motion, you can choose between 720p 240 frames per second and 1080p at 120 frames per second. And like I said, the camera is phenomenal. You will see some sample pictures with some music after I've done talking, and you will see also some sample video so you can take a look at it for yourself. And since I'm shooting this video in 1080p 60 frames per second, I will show you the 60 frames per second 1080p video samples. And separately will be a 4K video sample, because I want to upload that in the full native 4K resolution rather than a downscale, so you can make your own judgments based on that. Let's take a look at some sample pictures and video. That's it for today on my unboxing, first look, and review of the iPhone 7 Plus. Eventually I'll make a 1-month update video on what I feel the phone is like, or what I like about the phone. So until then, thank you for watching. See you in the next video.